Well, welcome back to Game 2, where we've got a classic matchup of good versus evil, where Impact, the lock-in terror of the top lane, hopes to recapture that dominance here in the second round robin.
I'm really interested to see if he's going to bring out anything new with the champion pool to mix things up, because he was so aggressive, so dominant with that Renekton pick early on in lock-in, but we talked about it at the start of the day. When you compare the champions, Licorice has been the more flexible, and even over the last couple of years has been more willing to bring out some of these aggressive picks. He even did have a Fiora game, actually, earlier on this split. That may have been during lock-in. So, he is willing to go to these sorts of picks, and Impact has really kind of fallen back more into his kind of predictable ways, right? Where we've seen him in the past sometimes be exploited by, blind pick things like GP, and he'll pick a tank into it because he's not comfortable going towards those really aggressive answers. We've seen even this bit, people actually play Aurelia against him blind, and he's not willing to play the Jax and not willing to punish. So I do think maybe a way that FlyQuest could get an in this game is to try to exploit that, try to get a winning advantage up in that top lane for Licorice, and then use Jose Dioto to try to snowball that and potentially control the game.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Jose Dioto certainly needs to be making an impact there. He's been great so far, as you can see his stats here. And it feels like he and Licorice are the most natural pairing, as, arguably the two best players on this team, at least early on, as this roster is still kind of finding its feet.
Exactly. I think that they have been pairing up well. I think that Licorice, is kind of the clear star of the team, especially when you're looking back over performance of the last couple of years. This guy has been one of the best, if not the best. Another standout, though, on the other side for EG would be Ignar. I think that Ignar, has been playing well for the team, can be proactive, get out on the map, and really make things happen. And when EG is playing well, I think it is a combination of Ignar and Jizuke, as well as Fenskare, and these three guys who I kind of see as three peas in a pod, who want to play aggressive, who want to make plays, who want to go in. And I think that when they are on the same page, EG can look so damn good, but they have got to get on the same page more consistently, because they do seem to really struggle at times with having different ideas about how to play out the game. And, one player is going in while the others are disengaged. One player wants to set up for a dragon while the other wants to split push. These various things, I think, have got to get smoothed out a little bit here for EG, because we know that their potential is very, very high. We saw early days of lock-in. They were dominating in the group stage. They looked incredibly good, but their showings over the last couple weeks haven't been, I think, up to that same standard.
Certainly not. And I think, for both these teams, they're looking for more development, but I think giving a little bit more leeway for FlyQuest, because they are a newer roster with newer players, whereas EG have already shown us the ceiling. We just kind of want them to get back there and then start to punch through it, as Seraphine and Tristan are going to be the first two bans. Pretty nice ones there. Gragas and Udyr, the other two there. So two junglers on the FlyQuest side and two strong champions on the EG side.
Banning out that Gragas feels like targeting Impact here a little bit up on that top side. Olaf still conspicuously available. Tristana getting taken out does mean, both as a mid and a bot lane pick has been pretty popular in LCS. I expect the popularity to increase on this new patch as well. As we saw, picks like Samira, some of the really aggressive picks that people like to play into some of these late game scalers have been knocked down a peg. And as a result, it's easier to more safely scale towards those later stages. This is one of the only times Renekton has actually been available here for Impact, though, since the LCS did begin its spring split. He got, I want to say, 4 straight games in lock-in, and then has not gotten it even once in the regular season here. But it will be the Olaf first pick. He hovers it, and he's like, I wish I could do it, but I can't. My coach will kick me off the team.
Like pleading with these coaches, like, pick Olaf, please.
Let me get the Renekton.
All right, well, now FlyQuest have the opportunity to steal that away if they want. Olaf, though, is the first pick for EG. Maybe, Licorice doesn't want to play it, and maybe doesn't think it's worth taking away here. I feel like the data says, it's a good idea, but Senna going to be the start here for FlyQuest, as we'll see if Renekton comes back around to Impact, as Jose continues to hover Fiddlesticks. I don't know why he does this. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe it's his favorite champion. Maybe there's something about him that is associated with it I don't know. I'll find out at some point and let you know, but this is just his thing, and I like it.
We'll have to get some investigative reporters on the case, find out what the deal is there. When you see Senna oftentimes you are kind of expecting the Senna TK. That does feel like the most common pairing. I think it can be fine with other pairings as well, but that is so popular. Graves coming through here for Jose Diodo. A very big focus on the farm on this champion. It is someone that can go phase rush and very often match up pretty effectively against the Olaf. As long as you're not actually face checking the Olaf, you can kite back pretty well and sometimes just have an overwhelming amount of damage in the team fight stage. For when Olaf is flying in, he can just get focused down and burst down.
All right, well, Orianna the pick there, and we did see the TK hover as well for EG, so perhaps considering taking that one away, as you said, splitting up that duo, generally a good idea. But we'll see what happens here. EG, plenty of choices, could still take the Renekton. I think if they don't take it here, they're not going to get it. Yeah. So if Impact does want to play it, he's probably going to have to pick it here, but EG figuring out that they're probably going to get it if they passed it back here in Phase 1, and indeed it's the solo lanes locked in for EG, Orianna, and Renekton.
Okay, so back to the Renekton here for Impact, and we'll see if he's going to dominate once again. He was crushing on this, as I said, in lock-in. Really did look good. And there's not a lot of 2v2s that you want to actually take into Olaf Renekton. It doesn't really matter what you draft. That is terrifying. Licorice, if he wants to go for a counter, you have to go more towards the things like the Quins of the world. If you go Phase Rush Quinn, that can maybe keep you safe a little bit against the Olaf as well, but it's always going to be somewhat dicey unless Jose Diodo is going to be up there with you, playing aggressive. So with that power duo given over, I'm already a bit hesitant if FlyQuest is going to focus towards the top side as much, but I would be excited to see one of those counter picks coming out. For now, though, Tahm Kench paired up with the Senna. It does give you a lot of safety down in the bottom lane, and FlyQuest can now kind of just ban out bottom lane or support picks, whatever they think is going to be the most problematic, and targeting the Jinx here. So feeling like Jinx could be something that could actually scale pretty effectively alongside that Senna in this lane. Tristana's already banned out on the other side there by EG. So those are two of the best kind of late game carries as far as the safety is concerned, and we'll be interested to see if they want to continue targeting those and take away something like the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting that, actually, so we'll see if FlyQuest agree with us or not. I will say, asking about if FlyQuest wants to play topside or not, I think when he drives something like Senna TK, that's the kind of lane that lets you play heavily to that side of the map, but I do agree that playing up against Olaf Renekton feels like a pretty tall task, so we'll see what FlyQuest have kind of brewing here, as they are going to ban away Ezreal, actually. So okay. Different kind of AD, but still pretty good.
Pretty interesting. One thing I do think can be effective against Tahm Kench lanes is range supports. It's not something that we've been seeing a lot of, but with enchanters coming into the meta more, there is a possibility of going for something like Lulu and putting a couple points in Q early. You can force it to be a farming Senna instead of the more kind of like support Senna where they're just farming a million souls in that early game by doing that, because when the Tahm Kench goes forward to actually farm, you can really put a lot of damage onto him with both your range support plus your marksman. So it would be interesting to see if they want to go towards that, but of course there are a lot of the more standard supports here available as well. If they want to look towards Engage, EG could go towards an Alistar or Leona or really any of those that are still up on the table and available.
Yeah, Cloud9 actually played Ashe Lulu. That was one of their counters into, I believe, 100 Thieves, if I remember correctly, to their Senna TK. That was kind of cool to see and illustrated that idea you're talking about. Varus also, by the way, a champion, so certainly something that in general, I think players will be considering more, given that he's gotten some buffs, but also might actually be pretty good in this style of matchup as well. Syndra also the expected pick for Palafox, so there it is, Varus for definitely.
Varus coming through is pretty cool. We'll be expecting poke, honestly. I think when you have Olaf and Renekton as well, I don't think you need to go for the on-hit style. I think that this is a team that can be somewhat vulnerable to poke over on that other side, and it can be pretty effective. So if you're going to do a range support, I think it would make sense to go with a poke Varus, have that double range bot lane.
Or Nico.
If there wasn't already solo lanes picked, I would have expected that this was like a solo lane pick. I have not seen support Nico. Woof, I don't even know when I would have seen this last. I mean, this is definitely out of left field here for Ignar. That is really, really interesting. I'm not even going to entertain that it could be like Orianna support or anything. I'm definitely assuming that it is going to be Nico support. So this is the double range down on that bottom side. And it will be a Scion as the last pick here for Licorice. So they are just going to play to withstand that top lane. I wonder if that pick changed at all because of the fact that we saw this kind of volatile bot lane, where maybe you want to go at the Varus and go at the Nico, because if your Senna and TK are under their tower and getting poked away at, they could be vulnerable to ganks there. I also think that Sion actually is really underrated in the meta. I think that especially when it's physical damage and jungle, it's so easy to stack early armor, buy up some tabbies, buy a bramble, and survive that 1v1 against Impact and Svenskeren. Keep yourself safe from potential dives by virtue of stacking that armor against both of those physical damage champions. And even for the early laning phase, one of the strongest parts about Sion is, with most champions, you have to push them out once and force the TP, and then you can punish them. With Sion, you really kind of have to do it twice, because even if you force a TP around level 4, level 5, he can then hit 6, base again, and all back to lane. And that's one of the things that makes him really, really hard to punish in the laning phase. So I think it's a pretty intelligent pick, and it'll be interesting to see if EG want to go right at it anyway and just try to dominate.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of alluded to this already, but how do you beat Renekton plus any good aggressive jungler? And I think the answer is you don't. You just pick a tank, withstand the lane, and hope that nothing goes wrong. Because with Gragas banned, Licorice probably has to play a tank there. Because again, what are you going to do to actually fight a 2v2?
Not a lot. I mean, it's tough. Unless you want to go really aggressive, like I say. Play Quinn and have Graves sitting behind you the whole time. That's
right.
Your only option.
So dual lane, top lane. That's the answer to Renekton. I like it. All right, we'll see what happens.
Exactly. You know what? That's the play right there. Why bring one champion when you could bring 2 champions to lane? All these junglers are idiots. Don't they realize that they could just lane the whole time?
Buy support item, take smite, because you're probably going to need it when Baron and Dragon comes around and your jungler is level 5. EG vs Fly. It's going to be a fun one here. I think EG looking to bounce back. Certainly, this is the kind of opponent where they can look to do that. But FlyQuest, I think slowly, but I'm going to say surely, ramping up towards that potential we expected from the newer players here as an ooh has been called.
Yeah, I mean, just the surely, right? You got the confidence in them. That's what earned you the ooh there. And it'll be exciting to see, the development of these players. I do think that Diamond has looked better, in the more recent games compared to the early games where he really did not look confident. I think Palafox is another guy that I think there was a lot of high expectations from him coming out of Academy. People were thinking, this guy is LCS ready. He's going to be great right out the gate. And it has been a slower start for him, to be fair. So we'll be excited to track that development of these players. And also, I'm really interested to watch the bot lane, because even though it's double Comet, it's double range champions down here in the spot lane, they're still doing fasting Senna. So it's actually really hard for Diamond to farm without just being completely poked out. And you mentioned when Cloud9 did, that Ashe plus Seraphine or whatever it was, actually, we saw that the opposing team went for a more traditional support TK, and they actually had the Senna farming, because it's so difficult for a melee champion to farm in this lane without just taking too much damage. Every time you walk up for a CS, you're going to get hit by potentially the Varus to slow you down. There could be a follow-up root from Ignar, and you're going to get hit by double Comet. So interesting to see them go for this route, and I'm not sure it's going to pay off. I think Diamond's going to have a hell of a time actually keeping his farm up in this game.
Yeah, if you needed an illustration of the dynamic of this matchup, just look at the summoners and the runes. It's Cleanse, Guardian, Glacial, and Heal versus Jizuke almost dying to Palafox and Jose Diodo, because Jose Diodo ganked mid as Graves, and now Jizuke is running for the hills, but then the wrong hills. Jizuke going to find the blast plant. Over he goes. This is going to have to be some big mind games. Jizuke sneaking on out of there, pops the W, and Palafox has no matter. He can't do anything. He's going to run up and auto Jizuke. Jizuke's actually back to lane.
This is amazing. That looked like the most obvious you're executing 100% ever. So Palafox is like, well, he's dead. I'm just going to go back to lane. That was hilarious. Jizuke, that was actually so smart. I thought for sure he was just going to blast cone over and go die to the tower and, take the execute but not give over the kill gold. And instead, he realizes, well, Palafox just showed back mid lane. Sion's still showing top lane. All right, I'm just going to blast cone back over the wall and start laning again.
He's still going. In fact, Palafox is the first to TP to this lane, and Jizuke had to leave for quite an extended detour around the enemy red buff, so you love to see it. It's funny, we were joking before about man, mid lane is all its control mages. Not the most exciting 1v1. I will say Jizuke actually plays matchups aggressively, as we'll hold that thought, because the Ritz happened here onto Deathly, but Johnson's already gotten schmacked by the follow-up damage, and Ignar with a very nice double E rooting both. Means that FlyQuest just going to have to keep last hitting under tower.
Yep, Jizuke just doesn't care what the meta is. Jizuke is his own meta. He's going to do what he wants, you know? Doesn't matter how you play, doesn't matter what you pick. Jizuke is going to play his way. And that is what leads to some of the most exciting performances from him. You know, despite the fact that he has gotten a fair bit of criticism, you know, throughout his career, especially, you know, since coming over to North America, he has also had some of the most amazing 1v9 games, you know, where he just pulls off these incredible plays because he's willing to really go so aggressive and risk dying because he's confident that he can pull off these outplays.
All right, well, up in top lane, we'll check in for the first time. Junglers have not been up here, but Licorice has been feeling the pressure of the Impact Renekton. Down about a wave right now, although it's getting a bit worse. We'll see how Licorice plays catch up as the wave is going to get towards his tower ever so steadily. Jizuke still hanging out here in mid, has now committed the teleport, and is going to go for a T here after the Corrupting Potion. So it is just starter items here for both the mid laners, but again, so much about the interplay between harassing and pushing the wave. And I mentioned Jizuke because he's actually really good at staying aggressive and active while still like playing matchups that most people would consider kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, you notice how he's positioning aggressively. What he's trying to do there, and the reason he was actually holding the mini wave, is he's trying to actually tax Palafox's mana, you know, more so than his HP, because he has a big mana advantage right now. So he's trying to force Palafox to take these trades and to use spells to actually last hit. And as a result, he's hoping that he can get Palafox which is going to have him locked into a bad lane with no teleport, or taking a bad base where he's losing those minions under tower. And because Jizuke is playing this lane out so intelligently by doing this, you can already see he's already at a pretty nice advantage, and Palafox is tapped on mana, so as long as Jizuke doesn't get ganked and killed off or something right here, you know, he's getting pressure, and he's creating opportunities for his team to take this dragon.
Yep, Svenskeren here, bot lane pushing, mid lane pushing. All comes together for a very easy take here for Olaf, who already is happy to solo dragons at around this time, so is going to take it, no help necessary. And the blue team slays the first dragon. Mountain not going to be the soul this game, by the way. It was, of course, the first dragon kill. Jizuke going to get stunned there by Palafox. But again, like, what follow-up is really here? Jose Diodo is going to have to be the ultimate that Palafox doesn't have mana for, but he's just going to proc Phase Rush and run away.
Yep. But, you know, Palafox is getting that help from his jungler to allow him to reset, right? And that's more why Jose Diodo shows here, is to try to protect his mid laner, allow him to push out that wave, because he was just out of mana. He needs to get a base off here, but Jizuke does hold on to the base and is going to stay around here. We could see that Graves was actually spotted up around that top scuttle by Impact, but Jose Diodo, again, just coming mid, you know, creating this pocket of pressure. Jizuke is drawing attention to him constantly, which is pretty frustrating, you know, for Jizuke to get all that jungle pressure, but hopefully it's going to allow Svenskeren to create an advantage for himself.
For sure. Jizuke even committed Shockwave there. See this a lot in Control Mage mirrors where you just kind of use your ulti to poke them out. Jizuke, I think, at that point was just like seeing what happened. Didn't hit. Doesn't really matter, as it turns out. But I'd like vividly remember his Rise roam. If you remember that game where he just went top lane after looking like he was going to base and somehow found a kill tower diving with his top laners. So this is the kind of player that's really willing to mix it up a lot, which is one of the reasons he's so much fun to watch, even on the likes of Rise and Orianna. As Ignar looking to get aggressive around the enemy Gromp, but does not grab it. Instead, it's blue buff going to be donated over there to Palafox, as EG find themselves up almost 1,000 gold plus a dragon just from farming.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a really good job with these laning phases. You know, bot lane is pretty rough, you know, as expected. Diamond really can't farm that much, right? You know, he's down, you compare his CS to the Deathly over on the other side, he's down 30 CS. Johnson has picked up some of the farm, but one of the problems is, even if Senna's picking up some of the farm, because you have the support item, you know, that turns off your support item. If you get too much of that farm and you're not actually generating gold from that, you're not actually generating those charges on the Bilgewater Cutlass. So there is an additional cost to that as far as the gold, and we really are seeing this lead expanded. Jizuke has laned very well in that mid lane, and Impact, as expected, is getting priority up in that top lane. So things going really, really well. And you can even see with how heavily Senna is being pushed in, she's not even able to pick up some of these souls, right? Like, we just watched 2 souls die on the ground where she couldn't actually step up to auto them because they're constantly shoved under their tower, and the minions are dying too far away from her to be able to constantly step forward and take that. So it's not just Diamond being put behind, it's Johnson being put down both in gold generation and soul generation.
Yeah, Liquor's actually getting a bit of a lead there as Jizuke finds the ulti on the Palafox, and looks like Svenskeren's roaming around. He's going to try and bait him in. Jizuke, I think he's put him in the trap. Now Svenskeren going to run in. Does have Flash, does have Smite, does have Axes ready to fly, but going to have to get in there. As Powerfox going to try and make his own great escape. But he's got TP. No, he doesn't. He's flashing in. He's going to try and make a big old play. Love to see it as Powerfox is actually going to escape.
Yeah, he's going to be able to escape. Svenskeren wearing the blue buff that I'm sure Jizuke would have liked right now, as he is just dead. Palafox trying to go there for the big brain outplay, is able to escape. Nicely done by him, creating that little bit of pressure himself, as Jizuke now having a creative mistake. Palafox getting one of his own. Pretty fun in the mid lane. You can see that Jizuke did go for that verdant barrier, so grabbing the early magic resist. It's not as valuable as it is in some games because there is a physical damage jungler, physical damage in that bot lane, but it's still going to be a nice buy and keep himself pretty safe here. It also means that you don't have to go towards things like the Merc Treads against the Syndra because you get more than enough MR from this. I believe it is 40 when it's fully stacked up with the minion kills, and you can still go towards, you know, regular tier 2 boots that you would want, like those Sork boots.
Yep, and again, with how much trading they're making, it makes sense why you want to go this route. So nice stop off there for Jizuke in the build as Powerfox has actually finished his tier 2 boots. Svenskeren, though, here on the top side of the map, busy with the Rift Charge, should be able to collect that with no problems. And 50 seconds till that next Drake is up. No chance of a trade at all. EG just using all their pushing lanes, all their pressure that's converted into, again, like 1,000 gold from farming is not irrelevant in the early game, and it's only getting better as EG are using their space to keep Svenskeren farming these objectives.
And then, of course, you know, the following question is going to be, how effective will the support Nico be, right? Because we do expect them to win an uninterrupted laning phase, and that's basically what it's been. I mean, Jose Dioto went down there and I think cleared out a ward. That's about as much pressure as FlyQuest had from their team to actually help them out in that 2v2. So in an uninterrupted 2v2, Nico Varus, double Comet, double Scorch, they're going to win. The question is, how much can Ignar get done in the 5v5? Because there's always this kind of extra layer that people talk about when you're playing these squishy supports, is that it's difficult to actually face check brushes, which makes it harder to play around vision. So you have to have someone like Impact or Svenskeren there to play for wards in the river, and that's going to change things out as well.
There we go. Licorice going to pop the ulti finally here on the top side, at least for the first time in the actual lane, but Jose Dioto not up there in time. Perhaps a touch early there for Licorice and the Scion of Svenskeren. He's going to continue farming the jungle.
He's going to be grabbing a second dragon here for EG. Jose Dioto definitely playing it very passively, you know, has pressured mid lane quite a bit, but they don't really have a lot of gank setup either, to be fair. It's pretty tough. I mean, yes, Licorice can look to try to put on some pressure, you know, with something like the ultimate for the engage, but that being said, there's not really any opportunity to actually kill off Renekton unless you can get behind him, and that ward was always going to spot him out at that Tri-Brush. So Svenskeren has taken all 3 of those neutrals. He grabbed the 2 dragons. Now he has the Rift, and this is going to be first tower down on that bottom side. Nicely done. Yeah,
Rift Tower charges in. So much pressure here in the 2v2 for Ignar, and definitely Ignar even going Sork Shoes, which is like crazy aggressive for support Nico. But I like it again, just kind of doubling down on this build. We've got the early Umbral Glaive finished up for Deathloop. We've got Jizuke constantly pressuring in. This is the EG people saw in lock-in and love to see. Just picking pressure, pushing their lanes, being aggressive, but not being too silly with it, right? Like, calculated enough, active enough to be exciting, but not so over the top that they're just like constantly trading where it feels like, is there even a point to what you're doing? EG have shown a lot of poise through a lot of madness, which is kind of a fun thing. As Licorice, he's trapped. He's got no ult. He does have flash, though. Out to the back of the Baron Pit we go, and he'll be fine. Or will he?
Yep.
He'll be fine.
Gonna have to flash out of there. Still no first blood. We are almost 13 minutes in, and it's gonna be about when FlyQuest want to actually, you know, make their stake on this game, when they want to try to fight for something, because EG is happy to just vacuum up all the objectives, and I'm expecting FlyQuest to try to make that happen at this next Ocean Dragon. You know, 3.5 minutes until that does spawn, but I don't think that they're gonna want to give EG, you know, free Ocean Soul point. That would be their 3rd straight dragon, and Ocean Soul obviously going to be pretty powerful in a game like this, just constantly filling you up with mana, making any extended fight really go in the favor of EG. So FlyQuest likely will fight there. They are trying to set up a trap here with Licorice, who does almost have his ultimate, but it's kind of somewhat given away by the fact that no one is answering bot side. You know, there's multiple waves down here in that bot lane being pushed up to the tower, so unless they go like right now,
yeah, they are going to go. Definitely going to have to flash. Does indeed do so, but still the follow-up is there. Scion Q. See you later, Deathly. And there is first blood for Jose Dioto.
Nicely done. They had a lot of patience there. They do find the kill. Ignar with a nice little play, used the Nico clone to actually send that back into the Scion ultimate, which did absorb that. But they have everyone flashing on top. They do get in. They knock him down. Licorice setting it up with the E, knocking the minion onto him for the slow. And then in comes the ulti. You can see that blocked by the clone. Definitely did flash away, but the flash follow was there. Knocked up by Scion. Burst out. First blood over to Jose Diodo. And they sent their Syndra down to that bot lane to actually answer the waves there. So they really didn't end up losing much as far as the farm does go. But this is a pretty costly play for Licorice himself, who already was down a bit on farm, and now giving up all of those minions to put Jose Diodo ahead. He's got to really make that worthwhile, because Licorice has not much of a chance of doing anything except just wave clearing in this 1v1.
It's a very telling goal graph there. Jizuke up on top, but Jose Diodo, in the top 3 is kind of fighting Impact for second right now as the numbers tick back and forth. But, I mean, he's the only one from FlyQuest that's not, anywhere near the top. Of course, for Ignar, who's, as support down there, still above Johnson, who's effectively the support for FlyQuest this game. So, Gold's is going in the right direction if you're an Evil Geniuses fan. Almost 3K as Svenskaren's looking to maybe steal this red buff away.
2 Svenskarens.
Oh, that's a lot. Now Jose Diodo, gonna get rooted. Good play there for the Nico. Skill shot does land. Impact eating the ulti out of Palafox as Ignar.
Oh no.
Perhaps a premature use of the stopwatch.
Yeah, that play did not work out for them. I mean, both Svenskaren and Ignar flashed, and they didn't even get the flash out of Jose Diodo. He just ulted away, and then he accidentally stopwatched as well. So, sometimes you win out as the EG fan, sometimes you lose out.
All right, now, losing out, looking like it here for Svenskaren. Is going to get rooted up by the center and killed by Jose Diodo, who's the winner once more. Collecting gold on this Graves. Does have Gale Force, by the way, so he's going for the big carry build. His Impact over the top finds Diamond despite the cleanse. And now onto Scion they go as Licorice just doesn't have enough health to really do anything. Palafox, so big flank, big center ulti. Licorice is going to live because he's undead. That one's a bit complex, but now Licorice is finally going to die for reals this time. Shockwave finds 2, though, outside of Jizuke. As this just turnaround after turnaround as Jose Diodo jumping in again on a killing spree as he takes down Jizuke.
What a fight for FlyQuest, punishing EG on the overstay there. Both the flashes were down from Svenskaren and Ignar on that invade. The stopwatch was also used. And FlyQuest just stake their mark of the ground. They're going forward here. They're looking for a fight. And they were able to pull that off very, very well. Jose Diodo now is so incredibly fed. Svenskaren, again, had no flash. He had no ulti. Both of those had been committed. So he was an easy kill here early on. And then Renekton TPing in. Impact finds the flank. Ulti already popped. This was a nice little engage from him. Gets in the middle of everyone, forcing out the flash there from Johnson, getting the initial kill off onto Licorice as well. But Jose Diodo kiting back that entire time, getting damage out. And when Palafox does arrive here, it's a pretty difficult fight for Jizuke and definitely to pull off. They land the shockwave, they have the piercing arrow coming through, but Jose Diodo had held onto his flash that entire time and is able to close the gap and kill off Jizuke there. They grab a dragon for themselves, so now that soul stacking has been slowed down, and FlyQuest have put themselves into a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, now 1,000 gold between the two teams, which at 17 minutes is a lot less significant than the 8 minutes it was earlier on from the farming. EG's snowball has been stopped, both in gold and in dragons, and FlyQuest can start to maybe put their foot down in a few more of these moments. It is certainly going to be eyes on Jose Diodo for this mid-game. He is the one with all the gold. He's the one very much building carry from the jungle at this juncture. But mid lane's going to fall to EG. Second Herald is going to be there. Their objective control has just been so good that they're going to take maybe 2 towers off this play.
Yeah, it's looking like it. Jose Diodo also got poked out by Ignar.
Oh, Impact, you're so filthy. Svenskaren going to take down Palafox thanks to the setup there. And now Ragnarok has popped and Licorice is going to get chased down. He's got no ulti, is forced to flash away. And Shelly even grabs the charge onto the outer tower there for the inhibitor. So EG, as soon as FlyQuest wins something, EG are right back to it.
Yeah, they grab that Herald there, just go straight down mid lane. Ignar had so much poke landing on Jose Diodo that he couldn't really ever enter the fight before it even started. So it gives them the confidence to go in, to get that kill, to grab another turret and extend that gold lead once again. So EG with a misstep there over by the red buff, but battling right back and creating a bigger advantage for themselves.
All right, we'll see if the mystery of Jizuke's first item is answered soon, because Luton's Tempest is already finished for Palafox, but can't imagine he's too far away. Has invested a lot in this extra tier. Got the Verdant Barrier, he's got the Sork Shoes. He's taking his time. No rush here for Jizuke, but mid lane once again. I mean, Palafox just standing right in the open.
Yeah, and you can see Jose Diodo, how low he was. That was just straight up from Ignar poke over the wall, landed the root and the Q. And then I think Palafox just didn't realize how in danger he was walking across there. You know, mispositioned for sure, gets stunned up by impact, and he's always going to get burst down. You know, Diamond is not there with you. Johnson is not there with you. Jose Diodo had to go over to the Wolves to try to heal up. Palafox with the mistake gives over his life, and Suke, I'm sure, will be working towards that Ludens, but this is definitely something he does. He pit stops for a lot of laning items. He even had a Dark Seal earlier that he did now sell off, as Jose Diodo will be forced to use the ult in retreat. He likes to go for a lot of those early game items. You know, oftentimes you'll see him with Tyr, Doran's, Dark Seal, Corrupting, almost the full set, you know, coming through because he wants to pressure his opponents heavily in lane and use that, get priority, get tempo for his team. It does set you back, though, you know, as far as the mythic completion, right? You know, we're almost at 20 minutes here. He's probably closing in on it, but Verdant Barrier, Tier 2 boots, all of those items will delay it a lot.
Certainly so. Doesn't have a Dark Seal this time around, so unfortunately it means I don't think...
He sold it.
Ah, gave up on the Magi's dream. I think he might be the player that builds it the most for what it's worth, but that is something I would have to check. Luden's now done, though, on the other side, so set up for this next dragon in 2 minutes, but not there just yet. As FlyQuest still looking to try and battle back here. 0 towers on the board, though, is rough when you're trying to play into the river. You just have so little space to work with as Ignar and Deathly continue to run up and poke people. Very annoying on the FlyQuest side.
Yeah. We'll see what Ignar is going to be building towards. I'm thinking it's probably Everfrost. Would be excited to see that coming out. That's an item that has actually gotten a lot of buffs and is becoming pretty popular as far as solo queue does go. It's both good for CC layering as well as CC setup. You know, if you do actually hit with the middle of that cone on Everfrost, it is a full route, so you can do things like Everfrost route into the Nico route, or vice versa. You have your ultimate to then layer after. Even if you just hit with the side, that slow can help you to actually land your route to start things off. So can be pretty powerful and does give more engage options here to Ignar. But at some point, he is going to have to get towards the Zonias, because this squishy Nico, I mean, you're going to be down levels as a support, right? And you're a level 9 Nico. If you get comboed by really a lot of the members here, even the Graves, but specifically the Syndra, you'll just instantly die, right? You know, the ultimate shield is not going to protect you from a Syndra combo. So if you go in there, you try to get a flash root ulti, Syndra really just has to QR you, and you're going to die from full if you don't have Zonias.
Yeah, certainly rough stuff there, but I'm excited to see what Ignar does. I hope it's Everfrost. Love that item, but we'll wait for Ignar to finish that one up. Does still have that stopwatch he broke earlier that we caught on camera, but eventually that will be his Zonias. So we'll see just how long it takes as EG battling in the mid lane because FlyQuest are trying to push it through. TP from Jizuke, though, as EG are very aggressively wanting to move in for this dragon.
Yeah, looking to contest it. We'll see if they can get that for themselves. They would like to move to that soul point here. Already have 2 earlier dragons. FlyQuest had slowed that down after their previous teamfight win. They were able to grab a dragon off of that, but this is where they're going to have to prove that they can actually just straight up fight against EG, because EG wants to play for this soul, and it's going to be really difficult without positioning here to just try to walk through this corridor, walk through Nico.
Right, I mean, Varus poke too, right? Jose Diodo eating Varus Q already. FlyQuest, though, getting aggressive. And are going to take over the pit. They're actually going to aggro the Drake as well, but Impact's on the flank already.
I'm really surprised that EG just let them walk in. I mean, you have Orianna Ball, you have Nico poke, you have Varus poke. They really could have just, I think, not allowed them to walk in, and now it's going to be a 50-50, but Impact coming on the flank.
Jose Diodo doesn't get it. It's Olaf that gets the dragon. Ignar, though, only gets one with the ulti, but Impact's going to get caught out. Spins around for a big amount of extra health, but Licorice is tying up the rest of EG. Impact is finally going to go down, but it is going to be traded. No, not yet. Licorice still alive. Has the flash almost sent. Ulti going to save him. Does get the knock up there. They get the second kill as Licorice finally falls. Call it a double for Jose Diodo as Licorice is still chasing the rest of EG from beyond the grave. Ignar low. Shockwave lands, but Palafox is going to take down Nico, and FlyQuest just walk in and take out EG.
Nicely done. FlyQuest allow themselves to just get in there. You know, EG didn't block them off on that enter. And once they actually have positioning here, despite the fact that Svenskeren had a fantastic smite, goes for that E-smite combo as this does get low, able to grab that for himself. Impact on the flank, but he's by himself, so Palafox flashes away. Johnson gets gobbled up, then flashes away. Impact forced out a lot, but wasn't able to get any kills because he didn't have his dive buddies back there with him. The rest of EG is all going for Licorice here, and he gets the Senna ult across. His W cooldown comes back up for that shield himself, and he's able to land the Q, knock up the Varus there. Everyone piles in, they finish him off, and they're able to follow through and get one more kill. So FlyQuest coming out on top in that fight, but they're still down gold, and it is now sole point here for EG, so it's still a pretty long road to come back into this game for FlyQuest.
Here we go again, though. Definitely going to be the target. Tahm Kench plus Cyanold are going to try and cut him off as Ignar is there. Johnson gets the slowdown from Glacial. That's going to be it. The root lands as well. Surely that's a kill, and indeed it will be, as Licorice going to line up for the second impact. Wishes he could cancel the TP, but that change happened awfully long ago, as Palafox will teleport in himself, because FlyQuest are going to play for this Baron.
They don't have the fastest Baron. This seems pretty bold to go for, but we'll see if they can pull it off here. Diamond going to be able to tank it up. Jose Diodo and Johnson working on it.
Going to keep him out of there. Again, it's not about taking it necessarily, it's about making them think you're taking it. So you can perhaps turn around here as Licorice no ulti, but still looking to turn. Palafox as well, lining up the stuns as Jose Diodo doing what he can. Pretty fed on the grave, so actually as a bonus marksman, it's not so bad, but it's not great like you mentioned. And now Impact getting in there, but he gets knocked back by Palafox's E. Licorice going to stun him up. FlyQuest going to get the pick thereafter. Indeed they will. Jose Diodo now dominating as he takes out the top laner, but still we're not done as Svenskeren. He's fancying a steal once again. He's going to get locked up. He does have Ragnarok, but Licorice is just tanking everything. And the Baron is finally going to reset as FlyQuest will have to leave the area.
Yeah, Definitely is back. It started with Definitely dying. Definitely has respawned and walked all the way across the map in what was the world's slowest Baron here. We'll see if Jose Diodo does cancel that base. He's got to be a little bit careful here.
Oh,
nice
clutch from Diamond, but now Ignar going over the top. The root is only going to land onto Diamond. Ragnarok pop. There's Nico getting low. Again, this into combo just too strong as Palafox able to take down Ignar.
He just has no tankiness. He does have that Everfrost complete, but Palafox didn't even have his ulti, and Nico just gets burst out. They tried to chase in, but the front line from FlyQuest is ridiculously tanky. When you're hitting Licorice, when you're hitting Diamond, that is true tanks up in that front line that are very difficult to actually burst down. So even with them low on health, EG not able to finish off those kills. The gold closing even more here. As you can see, swinging in the favor of FlyQuest. This is that fight one more time. Licorice just tanking everything up, creating space for the Senna, for the Graves to get damage down onto Impact to knock him down. And even staying alive, you know, Licorice kiting back. They realize as Definitely is arriving, they had to retreat. But when EG goes for this fight, you know, it's initially looking like some pretty greedy recalls here from FlyQuest, but a great devour by Diamond as this Shockwave is actually coming through, saves Licorice from taking that damage. Licorice then has his W up, the gray health comes through from Diamond, and the Scatter of the Weak from Palafox onto Ignar, knocking him out of range of that Tahm Kench, so the Nico ult can't land on anyone.
Oh, Licorice is just in there. Back to life we go, and Definitely's getting assaulted by Sion. As the rest of EG will reinforce, but Johnson again ready with the heals. Licorice is like almost unfathomably tanky at this point in the game. But we're going to be playing for another dragon, and FlyQuest need to keep this one out of Svenskeren's little mitts. That smite's been pretty good so far. FlyQuest's going to have to deny the Ocean Soul.
It's been really strong, and the E-Smite from Olaf is very, very scary. Real chance of a steal there, but Lethality Varus really does absolutely nothing to the front line. These guys are just stacking so much armor, so a lot of it is on Jizuke. You know, you do have really high DPS as the Orianna. He's got to be able to put pressure on these frontliners because Definitely just cannot do it really here on this Varus.
And you can see Fly like still don't have the outer tower damage really at all in mid lane. So it's actually kind of tough to, you know, get angles and prio on a mid. Oh, Palafox eats a big one. As Varus is finding those cues, Palafox definitely a juicy target as Diamond also is getting assaulted by the rest of EG. It's going to be kind of a pincer attack as Diamond can't really get out of there. And true tank or not, farming Tahm Kench will not survive the 1v5 as EG find the pick before the Drake.
Yeah, EG had a really good fight there, poking out Palafox very, very heavily, pushing him back. And then Tahm Kench was just separated from his team, so they can just slowly kill him off, chase him down. FlyQuest staying in the area here, though. They cannot afford to give over this soul. Palafox is on the flank, but it means he's split from the rest of his team. So if EG engage away from him towards Johnson, he's going to be in trouble.
Also like how patient EG being, not even starting the dragon. Just going to fight them instead. Stun for Palafox hits too. Jose Diodo goes in, he blows up Nico, but he dies. Now he can't smite the dragon, and EG are going to keep the fight going. Johnson gets obliterated by the frontliners of EG, and now Licorice this time's going to die despite the undead. It just doesn't matter. Going to run away as the rest of EG, kite out the dead Scion, and Powerfox the only one left who cannot stop the soul. It's going to take a miracle steal, and that's just not going to happen as Impact even going to find that Syndrome, make sure there's nothing happening around that dragon.
Has no smite though, so if he doesn't know, so there's no way he could get over there.
Right. The dragon goes over, EG, get the soul. You thought that poke was annoying earlier, let me tell you. It's only getting worse.
It is definitely going to get worse. And when you are playing these comps with multiple tanks, they're very, very strong at times, but they also don't deal a lot of damage. And the Ocean Soul is going to help you to actually heal through so much of it. You can see Impact over the wall was waiting. As soon as Jose Diodo goes forward, Impact just flashes on him with the ultimate up, stuns him up immediately. With him down, Senna was never going to have enough to be able to actually push through the rest of this fight. Palafox had to play it safe, was already poked out a little bit, so the Olaf and the Renekton can just pile in on top of Johnson, who already had no flash from earlier in that skirmish, and he gets taken down pretty easily here. EG now in a great spot, and they have the ability to also threaten Baron constantly when you have Ocean Soul, because you can just continue to heal off that Baron. You don't really get low while doing it once you have that secured, so they can just kind of risk-free, continue to start it up, draw FlyQuest over them, and take fights if they want them.
Yeah, it's just looking right here for FlyQuest is Jose Diodo, I mean, got clipped by a Shockwave as well going in. I think that might have been a one-way trip regardless, but wants to make the play, does at least get the pick, but costs them far too much as EG pick up the soul as a result. And I don't know if the game was like so far gone that that's the kind of play you needed to be making. FlyQuest were making good progress, although perhaps a little too slow for their liking. Now it's EG that are going to extend their lead. That soul's going to be on the board forever. And they're going to just keep playing around the Baron again. Like, FlyQuest don't have any towers still. That's such a huge issue 30 minutes into the game, because when EG are moving through the jungle, getting wards down on Baron, it takes you so long to push waves in to try and get into the river, and costs them so little to push those waves back out and immediately force you back so they can once again retake vision. It's like one of those things that, as the game extends, it is really hard to explain why it's so challenging, but it is abysmal to play against a team when you can't even get to the objectives, it feels like.
Exactly. You lose those pockets of safety without the tower, right? You know, that is kind of the first step, is going out to that mid lane tier 1 and then getting vision from there. When you don't have a mid lane tier 1, we don't have a mid lane tier 2, sweeping the brushes and getting vision in every brush starts right outside your base. And it's such a slow process then to work your way through the entire jungle, knowing that your opponents could be in every single bush, having to play it safe, having to play it slow, just makes it a really difficult situation for FlyQuest. And now going to be out towards those side lanes. EG did get vision, but if they show too much on those side lanes, we will see FlyQuest just walk in and eliminate most of that. So you want to see them try to defend this vision at least as much as they can.
And kind of on that note, this is actually a great time to talk about Ignar, because for my money, he's the hide-and-seek champion of the LCS. This man always finds a flank regardless of the champion, and even though I think maybe in this game he's going to play more pokey, especially without something like a Zhonya's, he's just going to be like running around and throwing E's and kind of supporting and poking alongside Deathly. Nico flanks are sick nasty if he finds the angle, so kind of excited to see if Ignar can maybe sneak around, but perhaps we'll have to wait for a different champion. But I do want to point out that one of the reasons Ignar is so frustrating to play against is that you have to find him. Because if you don't find Ignar and he's flanking you, that flank probably wins them the fight.
Yeah, he's very, very good at doing it, you know, especially on champions like Rakan. He's willing to very boldly just kind of W over walls to get behind teams, even if it means he might not have his escape to get out if you're there. He finds these really unique angles to attack you from, and I think it is really, really exciting. The difficulty for him in this game in finding a flank is he's just so squishy.
Oh, yeah, just that there as Licorice actually going to go in. Svenskeren too deep. Ragnarok already popped, and he's not going to live as there's the shutdown, as that's a big old oopsie on the EG side.
Yeah, Svenskeren just kind of hard committed to that. Didn't feel like the rest of the team was really even with him. Ignar got poked out immediately, almost just insta-killed there by Jose Diodo. And he did actually a good job on the Olaf, I think, of blocking that ultimate from actually connecting onto the Nico, so it did prevent him from potentially going down, but went so far forward, and you're more valuable than support. So giving up your life for that really is not the play you want to go for, but it just looks like FlyQuest don't have enough control on the map to really get anything from it. So it will just be that one kill, which isn't going to amount to much.
And if that's not an illustration of the kind of advantage you get from like this kind of map advantage, I don't know what else is. Because it's 33 minutes in the game, it's a 5v4, and Licorice might get this tower in bottom lane.
Yeah, with the people coming behind him, he should be able to grab that for himself.
Alrighty.
But in a lot of situations, you would, like you say, you would expect more, right? You would expect him to be able to go towards that Baron with people down. But the fact that a lot of these critical members are up on AG, and also it's pretty difficult to actually take a Baron in the face of champions that have a lot of poke. You know, when you're sitting on that Baron and your damage is pretty slow, and definitely is just constantly poking away at you with this Varus, it can become pretty high risk.
Cannon Minion getting it done there. FlyQuest getting on the board on the structures, as they do manage to finish off the bottom outer tower. Impact touch too late and probably too scared of the people potentially down there looking to pick him off. So does play it safe and let the tower fall, because at this point, EG can afford to give a little bit of that gold back. 25 seconds almost, though, until the Elder Dragon is up and available. It's been pretty quiet since that soul take. But you can see that EG are, you know, mostly trying to play pretty quietly here, not make too many mistakes, because they do respect that, you know, Licorice can kind of get a fight going at any point. Diamond can maybe flank them if they're out of position, and just using their superior vision and map position to just play out the game slowly, try and minimize the risk they look to take here against FlyQuest.
Especially with the Ocean Soul, you want those slow fights, right? You want extended battles where you're kind of skirmishing out and you're getting value from that, instead of just a hard committed fight 100-0 where you're not necessarily going to be able to get enough out of that before you can potentially get burst down by someone like the Graves or the Syndra. So EG playing it out methodically, playing it out smart here. FlyQuest, though, over by this Elder. They know they have to contest for this. Licorice is split from the team, but could potentially come on a flanking angle if they want to start this up. But one of the things that's making this more complex is the fact that neither team really has great objective damage. I mean, the Senna does not even have a Rage Blade yet, so she's pretty slow at actually killing these off. Definitely is playing lethality, so he can't do it either. Licorice actually just TP'd to the team. That means they sacrifice mid lane priority, so now they're committed. They've actually just got a hard commit to trying to take this at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the brush, just shooting the dragon. It might even just be a 50-50 at this point, although Jose Diodo's one level ahead of Svenskeren. Notably, Licorice is going to go back in, but that's the wrong Nico! Ignar is going to absorb the Licorice ulti once again, and now Licorice is going to get stunned up as the rest of the team is just throwing poke into the Scion. And EG, they know they can be patient here. They've got the soul, they've got the poke. FlyQuest have to commit here again as Ignar keeps running the clone in.
It's getting low, so it's going to come down potentially to this 50-50. Jose Diodo does have a level in his advantage, but it's tough to actually approach that as the Graves.
All right, this is taking a little bit longer than the teams maybe want, as FlyQuest just don't want to get too aggressive here. Ignar again continuing to feint using that W. Poke is continuing to rain here again. EG have the Ocean Soul. They can wait here. FlyQuest needs to burst somebody down as Impact does hit a decent chunk of his health, but now maybe a catch on the front side as Ragnarok will be forced out. Shockwave finds two, though. Senna healing everybody up, but Power Fox has been caught as Varus finishes it off thanks to Impact's setup. And now into the backline goes Licorice, but really what can he do is Jizuke is cutting out the Tom Kench, but Jose Diodo, he's trying to finish off the Dragon. They want the Elder. He does get it, but FlyQuest, I don't think they're going to live. Licorice going to make it over the wall and try and get to safety. Johnson is absolutely dead with Nico closing in. And might be able to get the kill on Nico if that's the only person here, but the root lands, the execution does happen, and Johnson, I take it all back. He's going to at least get out with his life.
Yeah, he survives, and with him getting back to base, they potentially can defend. Because if he actually got killed off, EG, I think, could have pushed for the end there. Instead, they're going to go over towards that Baron, grab the Baron for themselves. Jose Diodo coming up huge for the team here. They forced back Svenskeren, they force out the ulti, but then Impact. He sees the Pal Fox is split, flash in, immediate kill onto that Syndra. As soon as he's stunned up, the Varus Q will be landing every single time, and they burst him down immediately. And then Impact trying to get over here to Jose Diodo, who's barely able to actually finish that off. He actually smote a little bit early. Looked like he knocked down to about 80 HP, but then was able to finish it off. And now it is EG trying to secure this Baron.
Surely, yep, cannot steal it. No smite inside it is just Svenskeren, but Licorice actually got a decent fight started. Unfortunately, there's no one else to follow it up.
Johnson just lost about 80% of his health to one Varus Q there.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah.
Ooh. Definitely has the item that I forgot the name of.
Seraldia's Grudge?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's Seraldia's.
It did a lot of damage, whatever it is.
It's the slow pokey one, you know? When you hit them with the ability, they get slowed down.
The Spirit makes sense. Pretty good also. Ability rallies for ADs. Not bad for someone like Varus looking to throw Qs infinitely throughout the game, which you can do thanks to the power of Ocean Soul. FlyQuest finally cracking that mid outer, but without the Baron buff, EG going to give away one tower. Probably not have to give away too much more. FlyQuest's Elder Dragon is wearing off in about 30 seconds. And the reset will happen with EG still being up in this game. It is kind of dragging on maybe a little longer than the teams expect. FlyQuest are actually putting up a really good fight despite the position they've been put in.
Yeah.
EG still certainly holding the advantage here.
Yeah, EG are at a pretty large advantage at this point. You know, I think that really they are just kind of waiting out the Elder. You know, you pointed out it was about down in 30 seconds. So despite the fact that they had the Baron buff, they're just waiting for this time where it's not overlapping. You know, the Elder is going to expire here. Now they want to try to get it on the map and really get something done. I'm going to be interested to see how many souls Johnson actually has at this point in the game, because in a 40-minute game, sometimes Senna's can take over purely through how many souls they've actually collected. It can be a pretty big difference, and he does finally have his Rage Blade. I would like to see him picking up a lot more of the farm at this point. I just think it's not really relevant if Tahm Kench gets more items at all. And you know, Johnson does kind of need those items because they really could use that consistent damage coming out of the Senna.
Yep, well, tier 2 in the bottom side is going to fall thanks to the power of EG and their Baron buff. FlyQuest will have to defend somewhere else, as remember they do have that mid inhibitor exposed and ripe for the taking if EG want to move in there. So pretty good time to split here in the bottom and the mid side, but not even splitting mid right now, just walking everybody bottom lane, throwing in the poke and trying to siege down yet another tower. As it looks like EG, the Baron buff timing out in 35 seconds, not going to have too much time left on this siege, as Impact actually going mid to get the wave going in that direction.
So Johnston does have 130 souls there on the Senna, so quite a few, but nothing insane by any means. You know, 40 minutes into the game, it's not really that big of a deal. The fact that he's still down quite a lot in gold individually is going to be a bigger difference than that additional range that he does have. But if the game continues to play out at this pace, it can start to really matter. And there is a lot of healing reduction over on the side of FlyQuest. You can see Thornmail done for Licorice. You can see, you know, the upgraded one, the Executioners has been upgraded for Jose Diodo. The Executioners is there already for Johnson. So Mortal Reminder is through. A lot really coming out as far as that regards. And it's, you know, with this newer season, there's more of an ability to play around Ocean Soul than there was before, because you can get these items that have 60% healing reduction, which can be pretty powerful.
For sure. Jose Diodo, as we've kind of highlighted all game, he's been taking all the kills. He's kind of the primary carry in a lot of ways. And with that Infinity Edge, he's looking to dish out the damage. Going to have another shot at the Elder Dragon in 90 seconds. And it just seems like FlyQuest are content to play around this objective. Again, they're trying to force a team fight. It is tough through all the poke and the ocean that EG have. But I think if Licorice gets a nice angle on the ulti, if they find a CC from maybe Johnson, Jose Diodo can of course blow people up if they're in range of him, which you obviously don't want to do.
He has 80% crit now, so the Graves is a real threat. The problem for him is getting in range without dying, right? Because Graves is relatively short range, and you have to deal with the threat of, you know, not only just a flash stun from Renekton, which probably means you're dead because you have no QSS or anything unless Tahm Kench is on top of you. There's also the threat of the Orianna Ball, of the Varus poke, of a Nico root. There's so many things that he has to watch out for, so we need to see Diamond playing more with him, I think, as opposed to the Senna at this point. If he's going to be your big win condition, you've got to protect him, because otherwise there's just too many tools over on EG's side to CC him up and instantly kill him.
Almost feels like the opposite range situation of the Senna. Like slowly you become a melee champion.
Get shorter and shorter.
Yeah. I mean, like
the barrels start to seal up, and you're just left with a little hammer at the end.
Yeah. You got Gale Force in there. Wish you had another Gale Force. It's tough. Diodo got a lot of ground to cover. Licorice going to try and help him out here, maybe looking for an ulti angle, but goodness, that is so many slows. Might as well be a stun at that point as Licorice tries to find something, maybe threatening the enemy team, but Orianna W plus Varusy and Licorice is crawling through those zones as EG finally set themselves up for the Elder Dragon. Already on it, I believe. Licorice going to be caught. I say that like kind of half-heartedly, as Ignar going to have to flash away. Wrong Nico once again charges in towards the enemy team, gets a bit of vision though, which is nice. As definitely just keeps poking like, yeah, it's Licorice. It's going to take a long time to kill, but he'll die.
And this is where that Ocean Soul for EG is really important, because they're keeping up on mana, they're still up on health. You know, imagine if it was Licorice with that, he'd be pretty much invincible.
Oh, goodness.
They have priority, and he has Warmogs, so he's going to heal right back to full. I actually really like the buy against a poke-heavy team here from Licorice. Very smart stuff from him. EG are on this Elder, but here comes the engage.
Oh, Nico's interaction so cool. Licorice there gonna get stopped once again, but now he's in the front side, and that's the wrong place you want to be. Senna ulti gonna go out. Oh, that's a big stun on Zenyatta! Over the top he goes, trying to make it happen as Impact. Gonna get stunned up on the front side, and surely he's gonna die, but Johnson just doesn't have the damage to take it back. It's Svenskeren gonna move back in. Power Fox though, finding a big stun on Jose Diodo. He sees the low health bars, but the Ocean Soul's kicking back in for EG.
Yeah, they're just healing right back up. If you can't kill them off, the poke hardly even matters. You deal any little bit of damage, you start that regen. This fight has been so long. Licorice Warmog's up again, though. He's got his own budget Ocean Soul.
Back in he goes. Diamond in the front side again. Licorice trying to absorb what he can, but he's finally going to be felled by Jizuke. EG just have enough to work through that tank. They're going to have to wait a little while longer, but it's going to be a 4v5 for FlyQuest in short order. Is they're going to try and get the dragon again? Jose Diodo, surely not again. It is Power Fox, though, that gets the dragon, but Jizuke with a massive shockwave finds 3 with 1 ultimate, and EG are going to TP to mid and try and finish off this game.
And I think they've got it. They've got the Elder. It's only Jose Diodo alive in a 1 versus 4. EG playing it so slowly, so patiently around that, and Impact's going in.
Looking like the Bud Light Ace. It is indeed going to be that as Barris picks it up. Definitely going to add 1 more kill to the score side, but the big one for EG is going to be that victory over FlyQuest as this game almost 45 minutes through. 0 Elder Dragons on the EG side, and it just didn't matter to Duque with the Chef Kiss Shockwave at the end, and EG will go to 6 wins.
Nicely played there by EG, bringing out a pretty different look here today. The Nico support, not something I've really seen with that poke lane. They got themselves some pretty good early game advantages. It did take them a long time to close this game out because FlyQuest fought back and forth very well, but the early game objective control from Svenskeren paying off huge as they stacked those early dragons, they grabbed the early Rift Heralds, and that led them to the Ocean Soul, which really was the determining factor in these slow late game fights where they're battling back and forth, poking away. They were healing up pretty much from very low to full. It felt like multiple times around the Elder Dragon as FlyQuest would try to find an engage, would get them low, can't kill anyone off. They're going to go right back to full with Ocean Soul.
I have a trivia question, though. What was Ignar's second item in that game? Because I genuinely do not remember. It wasn't. It's okay. He finished it at the end of it all. All right, well, good news. We can ask him about it because after the break, we're going to hear from Ignar in the Verizon post-game interview. Don't go anywhere.
I didn't order a pizza.
I know. But that Parker promo saved me so much in my insurance. Brought you a little something special.
Parker, State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
You're the man, man.
And you want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to the LCS, everyone. We've got another Verizon post-game interview with, we are here with Ignar. I was about to say with Nico, because that's what we just saw you on. And that's the first thing I want to ask you about. Why did you pick Nico here today?
Obviously, we practiced Nico in the scrims, and then he seemed quite good in lane. And then I also wanted to play strong lane this week, so that's why we showed up. But I was wondering, I was wondering, should I pick Karma or Nico? Because I know Karma is guaranteed good here, and then I'm really good at. But Nico seems quite okay too. That's why we just picked Nico.
Yeah, we do like you on the Karma. Strong pick right now. You mentioned that Nico was strong in the laning phase, but how do you feel about Nico in the laning phase with Varus here compared to later on in the team fights?
I think in lane is like one of the strongest lane if you can get like stable matchup. So it's just really strong in lane. Like it's like no way you can lose prio. But when you're not using the prio well early game, then it's pretty hard mid late game. So it's quite gamble pick in my opinion.
We saw Evil Geniuses with a lot of control over the game early and throughout. Evil Geniuses now on a 3-game win streak, checking in the middle of the split. How are you feeling about where EG currently stands and the progress that you as a team have made thus far?
I think our team progress is still building up as a team because our team is really good early game, but we are just make randomly mistake and then falling down. That's how we lose many games. But if you just fix the problems, then I think we will just gonna be like one of the top 3 team in LCS. So yeah, I think going well.
And you haven't lost to Cloud9 yet. You're facing them next. What do you think about that matchup?
Obviously, we didn't lose against C9 yet, but I think C9 is really strong team. So I'm not going to say we are gonna win again. But obviously, we had confidence against C9 because we win 2 games already. So we'll just prepare well, like not cocky, and do our best.
We're all looking forward to it, and thanks for showing us the Nico here today.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and continue to break down this game on the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Tigris. We'll talk about that Nico pick in just a moment, but before we get to that, I think we got to go all the way back to Mark Donalds and talk about the Jizuke fries. Hey, they came out hot and crispy this time around, my friends.
Those were really great fries.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that replay where he got the triple kill to win the game, you know, these are crispy, golden brown fries. They got the oil, you know, just the right amount, salted super well. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look at it right now. The game stretched on. I don't know what's gotten into the water today because our teams have been scrapping it out. Coming down to the second Elder Drake of the game, and it will be EG that comes out on top after the Drake is secured. Jizuke coming up big with the 3-man shockwave to instantly obliterate 3 people. No one else touched them.
I actually thought this fight was going really well for FlyQuest before this because EG had this kind of pseudo poke comp where they just have Varus hitting the Scion, but Scion's so unkillable this game that if he just takes the poke, does a little bit of damage back, and backs up. He has the Warmogs plus the Senna to keep all your team healthy, and then Scion ult is so low CD at that rank 3 that it was maybe 2 seconds off before he died there. He could have easily just waited back, and he would have had that extra bit of CC while EG's ultimates were still down other than the Orianna. You could just hit the Renekton still, and easily win that team fight, but they kind of just messed that up, went a little too early, plus Jizuke got that fat ultimate that just blew them all up, despite getting the Elder Drake.
Let's cycle back real quick all the way to Champion Select. We talked about, or rather heard mentioned in the interview, the Nico pick, a first tier on the LCS stage this year. We've got the Varus down there in the bot lane, and then, of course, on the flip side for FlyQuest, the Scion debut in the LCS. So how are we feeling about that overall?
I mean, this really left FlyQuest with very little options early, which is one of the reasons why I think the game was like so slow early on, is because you have losing lane prio plus Graves. I saw this a lot in LPL, by the way, at the beginning of the year. Did not like it then, do not like it now. I did like the appearance of the Varus. I I figured we would see him at some point in time. I do like him here. I think this game did get to the point where Sion was near unkillable, and there were a lot of mistakes made where I think FlyQuest actually should have been able to pull this out. But up front, this composition left them with very little options early on.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it was such a cool draft overall with the first appearance of the Sion, the Nico, the Varus bot lane, and some of the picks going on. But it kind of left it in the game state where, like you said, there's nothing for them to do. So EG just won the early game kind of intrinsically with their champion picks, and because I think it was smart for FlyQuest try not to force anything, just let it happen. Like lose the early game. You have some nice scaling in you with the Senna and the Sion, but they had to give up a lot to get there. When you look at the forward percents that were going on, when you look at EG's differences at their goal differences and how far they fell behind, like look at how forward they were playing. They spent over half the game in their side lanes, or it's not over half the game, but half of the time pre-15 minutes pushed past the river, which is usually, nothing that you see. So it just became so hard for FlyQuest to make any moves happen.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways those forward percentages won't surprise anyone based on the analysis you guys just laid out in terms of the way the champions themselves match up in the lanes. But that priority nets you this. Nets you 2.5K gold. It nets you the 2 Drakes and the 1 turret. And I want to highlight the Drakes there only because that plays into so much the ability to secure the ocean by the time that they did and basically extend the lifetime of what is a more early game focused comp as compared to the other side. But again, it was a scrappy day today, Alorum, and I think that, that just goes to show, or rather is highlighted by all of the different fights that we had between these two squads, most notably starting in the jungle on the red side here. FlyQuest, they found their way back into it through the fights.
Yeah, so both teams, EG had such a big advantage because they had like all the control in the early game. And FlyQuest, when you're playing Graves with no prio, all you have to do is just sit back and wait and hope that your opponent makes a mistake, which they did here. We saw FlyQuest got a really good team fight off here just because of misposition. So I think if this team fight did not happen, EG would have had a much easier time just running through this game, because as we saw the game go on, they had a very difficult time sieging, because when you play poke Varus against a team that has the sustain with Senna, it's not very easy to take poke at turrets, and your 1-3-1 isn't even that good with Renekton, so the game kind of boiled down to just who happens to have the better team fight at that moment.
And I think Jose Diodo was a big part for how they got back into the game. Even before that first replay, he kited out a chase down sequence to get out the Ornn ultimate while trading, or excuse me, the Olaf ultimate while trading a lot of damage back. He's been really good this split, and I think it's sad to see that they just don't quite have what feels like enough gas in the tank sometimes to win these kinds of games. But he had an incredible mid game after we talked about the struggles of Graves early, that he didn't just fall off and become invisible. So I was really impressed with him.
Another thing I wanted to call out with this was Ignar's Nico, which I know he was just interviewed about, but his use of the Nico clone was actually really good,
yeah.
and in some cases really disrupted what FlyQuest wanted to do, right? Even with the fact that obviously they are having so much trouble killing the Sion, and it really gets to the point where this team composition should just kind of win out, because the poke Varus isn't going to be able to do a lot without a proper setup. But his Nico clones in some cases really saved these team fights and allowed for someone like Impact, who has a really good understanding of team fighting on the Renekton. We've already talked about this. We've been talking about it since the lock-in tournament. It allows him to jump forward and actually get past the Sion into the back line, because the problem for this team is the Sion. Like, we saw so many times where he would just walk away full health and they would have burned everything on him.
Yeah, time again. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Oh, I was going to chime in and just say, I think Impact has the best flanks in the league. I don't think there's a better flanking top laner in the LCS right now, and you got to see it there. I mean, Jose Diodo just saw him, so he shouldn't have done that. I think that's the one criticism I'd levy at Jose Diodo, is some big mistakes that he makes. But, Impact's flanks are no joke. You saw it in the other replays, too.
Yeah, I mean, this EG team, man, they're coming away with the victories, but they're not all the cleanest. So it definitely still makes it difficult, at least from a personal perspective, to really pinpoint where they might fall in the LCS pecking order. But overall, to kick off the beginning of the second round robin with the victory has got to feel good for the side of Evil. Oh, my goodness. Evil's prevailing, guys.
That's okay.
Generally. I mean, you're okay with that, Mark? Okay. That's good to know. It's good to know which side Mark is on. I'm on the side of good, generally.
Kill the
I
bees.
just don't know why people hate bees. Bees are really cool, guys.
Right, yeah, Riv. Riv was making that appeal earlier today. Either way, we've got Pastry and Crumbs bringing us CLG versus 100 Thieves after this commercial break. We'll see you soon.